Have you ever felt a creative spark? You get an idea, inspiration to create something new, an idea that keeps popping up in your mind or it nags at you, almost like it's meant for you. And when you go for it, you dive in and revel in the ideas. The possibilities occupy your mind day and night. You're excited about something like you haven't been in a long time. It feels so right. And you catch a flow state where you get to ride the waves of passion, ideas, exploration, and possibilities for your life. It's the honeymoon period of any relationship, except this you get to do all on your own, if you want to. It's your baby, your masterpiece, yours alone, and it feels so good. For some of us, big, beautiful ideas that spark deep inspiration only come along once in a great while. I'm talking about the kind your soul needs to follow. In order to be creative, you need time to think, get inspired, and dream. And many of our lives just don't leave much room for that. We move through cycles of building and becoming, followed by confusion, boredom, and disarray. Then we rinse and repeat. We want to follow the passion and drive of our youth again. Where did that young girl with so many hopes and dreams go? Why does our success, our current life, suddenly feel so hollow? As we achieve a lot of the goals we set out to accomplish, life can seem repetitive, boring, meaningless. The sheen wears off. Like, is this really it for me? We hope to be inspired to do something big, new, and interesting. But when we feel inspired to do something new, we stuff down our ideas. I'm too old, or it's too hard. I've built too much in my career to jump ship now. I can't. Well, what if I told you that you could turn that creative spark into a fiery new life? You can add excitement and creativity to your life at any time, as long as you really want it. If you want to take a creative spark and turn it into a side hustle, a business, passion project, or new lifestyle, this episode is for you. Women get to a point in life where we just don't care. We've been through the BS. We're burnt out and done playing by the rules. Midlife is our time. We're fearless, confident, and ready to blow it all up for more. We are female and dangerous. I'm Jamesyn, your host and certified coach at theboldlife.coach. Let's do the work. It all came to me in a dream. No, just kidding. It actually started with getting my eyebrows done. Back in the mid-2010s, all of a sudden, the eyebrow trend came about. Prior to that, it was totally normal not to put on any makeup on our eyebrows. No eyebrow crayon, no combing them straight up with sticky goo. They looked good as long as they were somewhat thin and plucked. Not to totally date myself, but this was likely the result of us trying to grow our eyebrows back from the 90s when we had plucked them into pencil thin lines. And basically, we couldn't grow back our brows, or so it seemed. It was a curse. And suddenly, the trend was moving towards thicker, natural, but still perfectly shaped brows. And anyone could get these brows, no matter how little you had to begin with. And I was all in. I made an appointment to get my eyebrows microbladed. In case you don't know what that is, microblading, micro shading, ombre brows, these are all variations of essentially face tattoos. You lie on a table, the artist redesigns your shape, and then uses a tiny blade of anywhere between 1 and 16 needles to create either tattooed strokes or fine points to fill in your eyebrows. It then goes through a hideous healing process. The tattoo gets really big and dark, like Angry Bird brows, big and dark. Then it awkwardly and unevenly flakes off over the course of about a week to 10 days. And then over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks, when your skin cells turn over, the color comes back to a reasonable strength and boom, amazing, perfect eyebrows. Well, it didn't take me 4 to 6 weeks of waiting for my new brows to return to fully get a creative spark. I got this immediately. I was fascinated with this process on day one. After my appointment, I told everyone, look, someone has to do this for a business. The results were so amazing. It was life-changing. The artistry was so amazing. The concept was so unique, yet it also had become a super trend on social media and in real life. What could be a better business idea right now, I thought. Was there a friend who needed a gig? Like, who needs a job? I thought of several who might be interested, but I was appalled to find that none of my friends wanted to immediately take on this idea and bring it to fruition. But the reality is that one man's treasure is another man's trash. You simply cannot transfer a creative spark from one person to the next. A creative spark comes from within. When nobody seemed to be biting on this new amazing opportunity, I mulled it over, questioning why. And it slowly came to me. I should do it. Well, at the time, I had a full-time job in med tech, and I also had a toddler baby boy. I was a single mom with custody the majority of the time. Doggy mama of one additional. And so I was the default in my own life, you could say, head of household. And I was real busy and was spending more money than I was earning at the time. Some might say that starting a new craft and business might be next to impossible under these circumstances. Oh, but not me. I felt the passion, and something within my body and mind just knew that I had to follow this spark, my intuition. So it was a constant buzz of ideas pushed forward by leaning in, writing goals, plans, strategy, ideas, what ifs, how could I's, researching all of the best training opportunities, getting started on a company name, logo, branding, platform ideas, marketing, concepts to spin into content. It was fun and it was exciting and something I could do just for me in a time where it felt like I was doing everything for literally everyone else. So I found a weekend training and I paid a couple of $1,000s to attend. I mean, I was in a tough spot at the time. I had a well paying job, considering that a few years earlier I had moved from teaching high school to education in the tech field. But I was paying a lot for daycare, like insane amounts, and a lot for rent in the San Francisco Bay Area, one of the priciest areas of the nation. I was not rolling in extra funds. So this side business had the potential to really help my situation. I was able to leverage my primary income to feed this new dream. And when I say leverage, I mean I dug to the bottom of the purse. I had to take a chance on me if I wanted to see a different future for myself. And even if it didn't work out, even if it wasn't going to work out, I would have some really good learnings from it. I was sure. I had recently read some of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books by Robert Kiyosaki. The one I was reading at the time was called Cash Quadrant. A couple key takeaways for me were first, that there are 4 quadrants for making money. 1, you're working for a business or so employment. 2 is building a small business or solo business. 3 is building a business system or a company. And then 4 is investing. So I thought, how amazing would it be to diversify my income, making money in all 4 quadrants? That seems like the goal. So this was my opportunity to start doing that. The second takeaway was that many people believe that starting a business and failing is a failure of who they are. Like not coming out perfect on the first try is some kind of lifelong stain on their capabilities. Well, Robert Kiyosaki teaches that it's through such business failures that we learn and create future successes. Failing leads to better ideas, learning, possibly more failures, but you fail up and eventually you will find success. So, in other words, you can't find business success without trying and failing at some point, likely, or you'll never go anywhere. As I began my journey into a creative business, this was so comforting to me. Totally made sense, and it gave me the permission to fail. It made me feel warm and fuzzy enough to confidently put my money behind myself when I didn't have that much extra to go around. So, as I began my training journey, I started setting up a physical shop. I didn't want to get into a long lease like 3 years or something. I mean, I'm bold, but I'm not stupid. I had carefully considered how long I would have to get set up, to start making money, and I decided that I would give myself a year in the business before I would even consider quitting. So I rented a room in an already booming shop, a mixture of estheticians and hairstylists. So I was the perfect addition, and the rent was month to month. So I used off the shelf tools to create my logo and website. So many tools out there are so easy to use and learn for new creatives, like Canva for photo editing and making layouts, GoDaddy for website templates and hosting, Acuity scheduling for taking appointments, and Square for payments. These are just a few basics that I use to get going, but there's tons out there. I learned how to do basic social media marketing and started building an email list, things I didn't really have any prior experience with. And today it's even easier with mountains of information and learning opportunities available on the internet. I was at the time really in the flow. I was loving the process of becoming. And as I built the business infrastructure and prepped the studio, I found new trainings to expand my skill set. God knows nobody wants someone with 2 days of experience tattooing their face. So I found a community with other artists and experienced trainers to learn more about the craft. I learned different sales techniques, best pigments to use, and a lifeline to reach out to when I needed support. In a few months, I was up and running with clients and truly enjoying the side business and new person I was becoming. When I told people that I was a tattoo artist, they couldn't believe it. And I enjoyed upending their assumptions about who I am as much as I enjoyed upending my own expectations about who I was. Becoming an artist and business owner actually paid for my work in a totally new field took major thought work. I had to be able to believe that someone like me was capable of becoming someone new. I went from what if to I can to look, I'm doing it to I am. I felt all of the fears. Like, what if I was terrible? What if no one wanted to work with me? What if I failed to make any money at all? But so what? Everybody has fears about doing new things. I was able to acknowledge that my fears had a lot to do with my thoughts of lack, like lack of skills, lack of money, lack of time. I noticed that these thoughts were driving me, and I had to look at the negativity behind them. I had to look them in the face and shift towards positive thinking. What if I could become good? What if I could get a ton of clients? What if I could make a ton of money? That allowed me to see what was possible for me. For many people wanting to make a shift in their lives, it's the negative thinking about their own capabilities and identity that hold them back from learning, growing, and becoming. A fixed mindset does just that. It fixes you in place under the burdens of your own, literally self-imposed limitations. You're putting yourself in your own jail. Doing this thought work is a crucial element of personal growth and in making possibilities come alive for you. I could have easily shut down my desire to start a creative business with negative thinking. After all, I wasn't an artist. I didn't know the first thing about tattooing people's skin, like on their faces for that matter. And I'm embarrassed to sell things. Like, I find it rude and uncomfortable to push people into doing things and buying things they don't want. That's what selling is, right? Well, I mean, kind of not, depends. These were also, some of my thoughts and assumptions about what it means to be an artist, what it means to be a salesperson. Expectations that in order to be an artist, I had to be one of the greats or be born with a deep seated desire to only live and breathe art. I mean, but why would I compare myself as a new artist to somebody who had been practicing for years or even decades? These were just my thoughts trying to scare me into submission, trying to scare me back to where I came from. My thoughts were based on what I had come to expect from myself, probably a good reflection of what others thought that I should be doing with my life. But why couldn't I create my own version of artistry, for example? My own version of selling in a business? Why couldn't I start learning something new? To allow myself to succeed, I had to be able to get beyond the self-imposed limits and be willing to engage in the massive action needed to create the new version of me. It wasn't going to be easy, right? I would have to allow myself to learn as I went along my new path and to let myself fail. If I didn't give myself grace and allow myself to try at building this new persona, I'd never know if I could have done it. Today, we see so many experts on social media telling us that they have the secret formula for success, right? Especially for building businesses. Like you should only do organic marketing, or you have to be on all the socials, or only do person to person marketing, or only sell packages, or do discovery calls, or don't do discovery calls. The truth is that there are many, many, many ways of growing a successful business. And the only way you're going to find out what works for you is if you give something a try, like start somewhere and decide what works best for you. Through this work, I really wanted to embrace authenticity. I didn't want to become somebody else. I really wanted to become a future version of me, a better version, but still me. And following your creative spark is not just another way for you to take your idea and then kill it by doing what everyone else is doing, the way they're doing it. In learning my new craft, I consumed a ton of information, sure, to find out about different styles of work, business models, sales techniques, and came up with my own sort of natural version of doing business that felt right to me. I found my market positioning through some of this work, right? I knew that I was a person that you came to if you wanted a natural look, not those huge Instagram brows. Like I didn't feel comfortable or good about giving everyone the same big, bold kind of stamp of a brow, especially if they didn't want that. I wanted to serve by helping women and men feel their best. I developed my own sales technique. I wasn't going to be a hard sell person like ever. I wanted to consult and educate people about what their options were, but I wanted to serve only clients who were ready to make a change. So that's just what I did, and it made it a lot easier. I stayed authentic to what felt good and right for me. Sure, I could have skirted around my own ethics and learned to drive hard sales, but that didn't align with my goals in having this business at all. I mean, maybe over time, if I had continued this business until today, right, I would have come to embrace different methods for sales, business, developed my artistic talent even further. And that too, that would have been my prerogative. But becoming was not a straight shot to stardom. It was a spiral up of challenges, skills, problems, solutions, wins, fear, surprise, and rewards. Change is supposed to look messy. It's not linear because we are in the habit of letting go of some of our core beliefs, our habits, expectations, and we're replacing them with brand new beliefs, new habits, new expectations. It takes time. Building a new business and sense of self doesn't and should not happen overnight. So don't expect yourself to have overnight results. It's important to really understand your why. when making a bold change. I felt a strong pull towards this particular art, and I really wanted to bring it to the world. I also wanted more money and to engage in creative work I wasn't feeling in my day job. I'd always been shuffled down the hallway towards a secure, stable job in the workforce, so I never really even considered starting my own business. I felt like I didn't know how to do it. While I had in fact struggled with following my passions versus a more traditional route all the way through my twists and turns I call college, it seems my inner desires were not squelchable. Somewhere in there, I was an artist and it wanted to come out. Many of us find these urges for a different type of life that come up, then we squelch them down, and then they still keep popping up, and then we knock them down, thinking, I can't do that. What would people think? I could never make a living at that. Well, in fact, we can. By following the creative spark, despite all of the business of getting paid, I found real artistic enjoyment. It was working like it was a hobby and making money like it was a business. I loved methodically practicing the stroke patterns, learning a detailed craft. In the sessions, I found it almost meditative in the hours I would spend working so closely with people, especially when I added scalp tattooing to my repertoire. But that's a whole nother story. So I found care and communication with others. I now understand how hairstylists say that sometimes they feel like therapists. I spent time with people who were looking to solve the problem of hair loss and lack of confidence in their appearance. And they would be very vulnerable in their discussions about how they felt. So being able to help those people find confidence and a little bit of peace felt like a worthy accomplishment. So wholesome, so wholesome. I found that I'm great at selling to people who want to be sold. I learned to become confident in my consultative education approach to sales. I leveraged my desire to help people who really wanted to be helped, and that felt good and right to me. This journey brought me so many things that I'd been looking for: creativity, serving others, connection, new skills, and confidence to keep growing, learning, and taking bolder leaps in my life. New beginnings don't have to be stressful. You don't have to be perfect or totally prepared before you make a change. Learn along the way. A new beginning doesn't have to be the end of a job or all of your old ways. You get to choose the pace and timing for growth. You get to decide what you bring along and what you leave behind on your journey. Transitioning, total transformation can feel slow. In fact, the biggest changes should take time. So ease in. Do it right. Move through your fears. Give yourself some grace. Focus on doing thought work. Revel in the journey rather than trying to get to some imaginary ending. Because what is the end anyway? Well, it's a jumping off to a new beginning. What creative spark have you been feeling and ignored? Maybe you are being called to turn a hobby into a small business, or maybe you've been wanting to start a hobby just for hobby's sake. Take a look at what's stopping you. Is it perceived lack of time, money, self-confidence, lack of support, or community? Well, I can't solve for all of these circumstances today, but if you're feeling the creative spark and really want help getting to the next stage, reach out to me for coaching at www.theboldlife.coach. I guide people who are committed to making a big change, people who want to be sold, but are having trouble managing their mindsets through the massive action needed to achieve the results they want. Maybe you need help organizing your plan, putting together a strategy. Maybe it's the follow through. I can help with all of those. But today, I challenge you to simply imagine, who would you need to become? What would your thoughts have to be like in order to move forward with your creative idea? For example, in order to build my business, my thoughts changed from, I'm not a salesperson and can't stand the thought of selling, to I can sell packages by educating people I feel comfortable selling. I'm not an artist became I can learn to become an artist, which became I'm pretty great at this artistry, to finally, I am proud of my artistry. I shouldn't waste my time because plenty of competent superstars are already in this business niche. Became I believe in what I'm doing, and if all of those people can do it, then so can I. These are huge mind shifts that I was able to make. But as you can imagine, the mind shifts did not take place without that thought work and without massive action. I invested in myself and my learning, honed my craft and my business skill set. If you're ready to do the work to create mind shifts and massive action, let's get going. For more weekly episodes on taking bold leaps, follow The Bold Life with Jamesyn. If you want help taking your creative spark to the next level, reach out at theboldlife.coach. Let's get started. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, give me a follow and a quick review. You can always reach me at theboldlife.coach. See you back here next week at Female and Dangerous.